For a real treat. Now, normally, for those who are members of the church, we don't clap when we're in the chapel. We're going to waive that rule tonight, okay? So not only are you allowed to clap, but we encourage you to applaud at appropriate times during the production. So please, I know some of you are going to feel a little bit like, oh, I can't do that, but we encourage you, in fact, to do that, to just share in this process, in this performance. Sometimes little children and bigger children get wiggles, or they need to cry. It happens. It's sort of what we do. When that happens, and if it happens, if you wouldn't mind, because we're not in a sacrament meeting, and so we're not teaching our children that they've got to stay reverent in the chapel. So in respect for these performers and what they've prepared, if you don't mind, if that moment arises, if you would just step out, and then as soon as the wiggles or the screams are out, then you can rejoin us. Would that be okay? We would appreciate it. All right, we're going to start with an invocation, and that's going to be offered by Brother Vaca Pietau, and then I'm going to share a couple of thoughts, and then we're going to have the production. Vaca?
Father in heaven, thank you for bless us with today. We're thankful for this beautiful Sabbath day. Thankful for the opportunity that we have together here today to listen to the State Youth Choir. At this time, we'd like to invite the Spirit to be with us as we prepare to listen to the youth choir and to experience some of the pioneers and the trials that they've gone through. And Sexting Nish Kasman.
For those of you not familiar with the Pioneer experience and the hand carts, I'm just going to give you a kind of a brief overview of what happened and what led to us being here today singing and performing. The story begins in 1820 when a young boy went into a grove of woods with a question: which church should I join? He left that grove of woods, and the answer to that prayer has changed the world. The gospel of Jesus Christ was restored, and it began with that prayer in 1820, when in answer to that prayer, God led persecution for the remainder of his life because he testified of the truthfulness of Jesus Christ, of the restored gospel, and what has become the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That persecution forced the church and Joseph and the saints to flee from New York to Ohio to Missouri to Illinois, and ultimately to be forced to the Great Salt Lake Valley. Part of that process involved leaving Nauvoo, Illinois, and getting across the plains. We live in the first world today. These are first world young people. They experience first world issues. The saints back then experienced mostly third world issues like something to eat and something to drink and a dry place to sleep. Well, they were forced to flee Nauvoo. It was organized, and that exodus started in 1847. Ultimately, in order to get more and more saints to the valley quicker and cheaper, they decided to use hand carts. And you'll see a couple of sort of examples of the hand carts in the back. Between 1856 and 1860, approximately 3,000 saints left the Nauvoo area and the Iowa area and crossed the plains using hand carts. 8 of the 10 companies were pretty uneventful. It only had a 3% mortality rate. I was surprised by that, but even those had a 3% mortality rate. There were 2 companies in particular. We in the church have heard a lot about them, the William Martin, where it was a particularly brutal and difficult experience to the extreme. Ultimately, the hand carts accomplished their purposes, and the saints got to the Great Salt Lake Valley. Now, we as the stake of Ontario, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we reenact that track. We do that every 4 years. I've been on the 2 previous tracks, and I have just a brief excerpt from a young woman who was on You have to be there to actually experience this. But this is just a brief excerpt from a journal of a young woman who was in the Chase Company in the 2012 trek. This is dated July 21st, 2012. Together as true sisters, we formed a long human ladder. Person by person, hand by hand, we helped Rachel Woods up the hill. It was the sweetest, most precious thing to care for one so much. Then together, 10 to 15 on a cart, the young woman pushed the hand carts. After the hill, the company rested. A few young women were weak, and young men carried them down to a shaded spot. Priesthood power was strong today. All over camp, circles of priesthood blessed the young women. The spirit was so strong. The priesthood so powerful. To see such valiant young priesthood holders, such faithful young women. I can't describe the spirit I felt that moment. The conviction of the gospel rings strong in my heart. Testimony Hill came next. The whole company had to work together to pull and push the handcarts up the hill. I took trip after trip, along with many in the company. The spirit of service, the feeling of love was so strong. So many young women pushed handcarts over and over, draining all strength. But God was with us today. I found strength that was beyond my capacity. I continued to help my fellow youth up that testimony hill. Again, the strength of the young men shocked me. Again and again, they would take a cart up only to run down to help another. The Spirit of God was truly with us today. Our young men were truly Valley Boys today. I could never be more proud or thankful for those men, because that is truly what they are. Men emanating the power of God. Testimony Hill was conquered, and the company cheered with joy. I wanted nothing more than to continue on. The trek was amazing. The journey so fulfilling. This was exactly what I needed. I felt the Spirit so strong, and every moment was worth it. Brothers and sisters, friends, I give you saints and pioneers.
Of my family. It was too much. I sank back, crying to the Lord in the agony of my soul. My God, why hast thou forsaken this family? A voice replied, I have taken them to myself, that they might have rest. I then thought upon the promise which the Lord had given me, received in Missouri, that in 5 years Joseph should have power over all his enemies. Time had elapsed, and the promise was fulfilled.
My dear Brigham, we are in great affliction at this time. Our dear brother Joseph Smith and Hiram have fallen victim to a ferocious mob. The great God of creation only knows whether the rest will be preserved in safety or not. I hope that you will travel safely on your way back home and not expose yourself to those that will endanger your life. If we meet no more in this world, may we meet where parting is no more. Farewell. Shall we meet beyond the river, where the surges cease to roll, where in all the light forever sorrow ne'er shall press the soul? Shall we meet, oh shall we meet, shall we meet beyond the shore? Shall we meet beyond that river, where the surges cease to roll? Shall we meet in that blessed harbor, when our stormy voyage is o'er? Shall we meet and cast the anchor by the fair celestial shore? Shall we meet, oh shall we meet, shall we meet beyond the shore? Shall we meet beyond the river, where the surges cease to roll? Shall we meet with Christ our Savior, when He comes to claim His own? Shall we know His blessed favor and sit down upon His throne? Shall we meet, oh shall we meet, shall we meet beyond the shore? Shall we meet beyond the river, where the surges cease to roll? Shall we meet beyond the river, where the surges cease to roll?
As news of the death of Joseph and Hiram reached Brigham Young and the other members of the Quorum of the 12 scattered across the world, each left immediately for Nauvoo. When most of the apostles arrived in early August, the church was in crisis as to who should succeed Joseph. A few days later, a prayer meeting convened in the Nauvoo Grove. Sidney Rigdon, an estranged leader of the church, spoke first. For an hour and a half, he attempted to persuade the congregation that he should be appointed the guardian of the church. But his words inspired no emotion in the crowd. Then Brigham Young took the stand. His remarks were short, but as he spoke, he was miraculously transfigured before the saints.
If Joseph had risen from the dead and again spoken in their hearing, the effect could not have been more startling than it was to many present at that meeting. Not only was it the voice of Joseph which was heard, but it seemed in the eyes of the people as if it were the very person of Joseph who stood before them. The Lord gave his people a testimony that leaves no room for doubt as to who is the man chosen to lead them. The mantle of the prophet Joseph had been left for Brigham.
The mobbers had attempted to destroy the church by killing its leader. However, in the months following the prophet's death, the city of Joseph flourished. Under the direction of Brigham Young, the missionary effort continued throughout the world, thousands of converts gathered to Nauvoo, and most importantly, the saints had recommitted themselves to continuing the construction of the Nauvoo Temple. In October of 1845, General Conference was held in the partially finished edifice. Where Brigham prayed, Lord, we dedicate this house and ourselves to thee.
But with the increased growth of the church and the sustained progress on the temple, it became obvious that the church would not die with its leader. And so, once again, the mobs began the relentless persecution of the saints.
Our enemies are not satisfied with what they have done, so they continue their depredations. In the small settlements in the country, the mobs collected, drove our brethren from our homes, burned their houses and grain, killed some who could not get out of the way. In the fall, the mob collected in the south part of the country, and in about 2 weeks, they burned 200 houses to ashes. Cattle and hogs were stolen and killed almost without number. A great amount of grain and property was destroyed. Old Father Durfee was shot and killed by the mob while he was trying to save his property from the flames. Many others died of exposure after being robbed and driven into the wood. Their sufferings were so great that they could not endure it.
Behold, but every brother armed, his gun upon his shoulder to protect his family and brethren from the violence of the furious mob, who are now burning all that falls into their way round about the country. O God, how long before thou wilt avenge the innocent blood that has been shed? How long must widows mourn and orphans cry before thou wilt avenge the earth and cause wickedness to cease? Wilt thou hasten the day, O Lord, in thine own way?
Determined to drive the Mormons away, the mobs called a mass meeting in nearby Quincy, Illinois, demanding that the saints leave the state as quickly as possible. The meeting resulted demanding that the Determined to drive the Mormons away, the mobs called a mass meeting in nearby Quincy, Illinois, to unite in action against the church. The meeting resulted in a resolution demanding that the saints leave the state as quickly as possible. Long before his death, Joseph had prophesied that the saints would continue to suffer much affliction and would be driven to the Rocky Mountains, where they would become a mighty people. Thus, Brigham Young responded that the saints would leave the country the following spring for some remote place.
The Lord designs to lead us to a wider field of action, where there will be more room for the saints to grow and increase, and where we can enjoy the principles of equal rights and liberty. We are not our own. We are bought with a price. We are the Lord's. If my heart is not fully given to this work, I will give my time, my talents, my hands, and my possession until my heart consents to be subject. I will make my hands labor in the cause of God until my heart bows in submission to it.
Who knows the burden placed on your heart? Whence comes the longing? When shall it part? No matter the sorrow, He'll not forsake. God made our hearts, and in His absence they ache. Who knows what trials may come our way? How might we meet them? What will He say when we kneel before Him? Will He approve? God gave us trials that we might choose. Who tell what blessings flow from above? How might we measure His boundless love? Oh, sing of His goodness, glory I'll bring. God made our voices, but we make them sing. God gave us voices, so we must sing.
The evacuation of Nauvoo was originally planned for April 1846, but new threats of arrest and rumors of federal troops being sent to wipe out the Mormons prompted an early and hasty exit in the bitter cold of winter.
In our home since early morning, all has been hurry and bustle. 2 wagons stand in our front yard, and my father and 2 other men are carrying out our household goods. My mother looks pale, and when I ask her, what is the matter, she takes me in her arms, kisses me, and says, we are going to leave our home and will never see it again. Our fathers and our mothers knew no fear, but trusting in God, they crossed the river into the dark beyond. Knowing that a conflict awaited them, yet feeling beforehand that theirs would be the victory, they left their homes in the dead of winter, seeking a better home, but when or where, they know not.
I was 5 years old when we started from Nauvoo. We bid goodbye to our dear old feeble grandmother, Lucy Mack Smith. I can never forget the bitter tears she shed when she bid us goodbye for the last time in this life. She knew it would be the last time she would see her son's family.
I left the City of Saints knowing that this was going to be the last time, like a final farewell. As I looked upon the temple in the city, I asked the Lord to remember the saint's sacrifice.
Come go with me to where we'll be unmarked by hatred's face. Come to a land blessed by God's hand for those of Israel's race. With joyful hearts you'll understand the blessings that await you there. I know it is the promised land. our home is there.
Upon those everlasting hills, and in the valleys fair, beside the murmuring mountain rills, we'll bow in humble prayer and praise our God in joyful band, that we are safely gathered there. I know it is the promised land, our home is there. God will wash away our sins and fill our hearts with joy. He'll guide our souls through endless years, where He did not destroy. There's truth, there's light, and Eden's land is freely given to us there. I know it is the promised land, our home is there. I know it is the promised land, our home is
The first leg of the saints' journey toward Zion proved to be the most difficult. Their hasty departure left much of the camp of Israel ill-prepared for the bitter journey ahead. Lack of food, freezing temperatures, incessant rains, terrible mud, and widespread illness forced a slow movement across the Iowa Territory. The company took 131 days to travel the first 300 miles. For those left behind in Nauvoo due to financial or physical ailments, conditions were even worse. In September 1846, hundreds of these remaining poor saints were violently forced out of the city and across the river by mobs in what became known as the Battle of Nauvoo.
Scenes of destitution, misery, and woe met the eye. Families were hurrying away from their homes without a shelter, without means of conveyance, without tents, money, or a day's provision, with as much as their household stuff as they could carry in their hands. Sick men and women were carried upon their beds. Weary mothers with helpless babies dying in their arms hurried away, all fleeing. Thomas Bullock and his family were among them.
I have been shaking every day for the last month and can scarce write any. Even my little boy says, "Daddy, I wish we were out of this country, for when I'm done shaking, I can get nothing to eat." It will almost be a miracle if we see little Willard alive, for he has fallen away dreadful this week. And if you were to see me and my family at this moment, you would say we had either been whitewashed or had risen out of our graves. We have not the least idea where our next meal is to come from. I do not write these things to harass your mind, but to tell you my situation, and to show you that I am really desirous to come to you.
Unanswered yet, the prayer your lips have pleaded in agony, with heart these many years. Does faith begin to fail? Is hope departing? And think you all in vain those falling tears? Say not the Father hath not heard your prayer. Ye shall have your desire sometime, somewhere. Ye shall have your desire sometime, somewhere.
Yesterday, I exerted all my strength to go and see Benson and Lucy. She is also confined to her bed with fever. Benson looks a skeleton. He says it's impossible for him to get food or teams for his journey to the west. There have been many saints who have gone to the grave preparing as fast as they could go to the west. Many literally dying for want. Whole families are sick, and not one to help the other. 2 or 3 dying in a tent. There appears to me to be more sick now than when Nauvoo was crowded with saints.
Unanswered yet, we do not say ungranted. Perhaps your part is not yet wholly done. The work began when first your prayer was uttered, and God will finish what He has begun. If you will keep the Spirit burning there, His glory you shall see sometime, somewhere. His glory you shall see sometime, somewhere.
The Lord did answer their prayers. On the very day the Battle of Nauvoo broke out, several men volunteered to leave Camp Israel and make the 327-mile trek back to Iowa to save as many saints as possible.
Here, we are exiled from the United States, and without a home, dwelling in tents and wagons exposed to the weather. Like the saints of old, having no residing city, we are wanderers and pilgrims on the earth. But we count the present suffering not worthy to be compared with the glory that is to be revealed to His saints. With all the power of heart and tongue, I'll praise my Maker in my song, and heaven shall hear the notes I'll raise, approve the song, and join the praise, and heaven shall hear the notes I'll raise, approve the song, and join the praise. I'll sing Thy truth and mercy, Lord. I'll sing the wonders of Thy word. Not all Thy works and names below, so much Thy power and glory show. Not all Thy works and names below, so much Thy power and glory show. Amid the thorns and snares I stand, upheld and guided by Thy hand. Thy words my fainting soul revive, and keep my dying faith alive. Thy words my fainting soul revive, and keep my dying faith alive. Thy words my fainting soul revive, and keep my dying faith alive.
In the late summer of 1846, a stream of thousands of saints stretched across the Iowa Territory, wearied by the journey and sick with disease. They had left behind their homes, their warm fires, their beautiful city, and their magnificent temple. Theirs was a remarkable faith, faith in their leaders and faith in God, faith that He would lead them to their promised land, faith that would not falter.
Come, ye saints, no toil, no labor, fear, but with joy wend your way. Though hard to you this journey may appear, grace shall be
With so many struggling to catch up, so many sick and destitute, with the shortage of supplies and the unexpected delays in crossing Iowa, it seemed likely that the Saints would have to winter at the Missouri River. This decision was made final when Captain James Allen rode into camp requesting 500 volunteers to enlist in the war with Mexico. After all the Saints have endured with little or no assistance from the government, to be called on for 500 of the strength of Israel seemed cruel and unjust indeed. But the Saints saw the request as an opportunity to secure confidence with the government, to raise the funds necessary to complete their journey, and thus the Mormon Battalion was born.
When this news came, I looked upon my family, and then upon my aged parents, and upon the situation of the camps, and my soul revolted. The thoughts of leaving them at this critical time were indescribable. But when I came to learn the mind of the Lord, and on learning the offering had to be made, when our beloved President came to call upon the Saints to know who among all the people are ready to offer for the cause, I said, "Here am I, take me."
It was a bitter scene as young husbands and fathers bid farewell to their families. Had forced them to leave their homes, but with loved ones at their side, they were able to cross the wilderness with strength and resolve. Now, as they were torn from those loved ones, as their very hearts seemed to burst under the weight of it, those faithful saints tried to express words of comfort and courage at their parting.
You have nothing to fear from your journey, though your way may be burdened by thorns. For the Lord will be with you each step of the way as you travel with faith through the storm. And you've nothing to fear from your trials, though they seem far too heavy to bear. Take his hand and he'll lead you gently along, and you'll find peace and safety there. There is nothing to fear from the nights that are lonely. There's nothing to fear from the cold. There is nothing to fear from what might be tomorrow, for heaven is with you, and angels watch over his fold.
And you've nothing to fear from the journey, though your body is tired and worn. For the Lord will send angels to lift up your arms, and he'll carry the burden you've borne.
And you've nothing to fear from your suffering, nor the grief you've been called on to bear. Take his hand and he'll lead you gently along, and you'll find peace and safety there.
With the departure of the 541 men of the Mormon Battalion, the decision to spend the winter on the banks of the Missouri were final, but another terrible winter awaited them there.
Winter found me bedridden, desolate, in a wretched hovel which was built upon a hillside. The season was one of constant rain. The situation of the hovel and its openness gave free access to piercing winds, and water flowed over the dirt floor, converting it into mud 2 or 3 inches deep. No wood, but were my little ones picked up around the fences, so green it filled the room with smoke. The rain dropping and soaking the bed which I was powerless to leave.
Illness, hunger, and poor living conditions plagued the encampment at winter quarters, where the saints buried over 300 of their company.
You have nothing to fear from the journey, though it seems far too early to go. Heaven's angels will take you where tears are no more, and they'll lead you to glory untold.
winter passed, and with the arrival of spring, Brigham Young set out for the west from winter quarters with an advance company of 143 men, 3 women, and 2 children. Traveling in pleasant summer weather, the remaining 1,050 miles of their journey were relatively easy, considering what lay behind them. On July 24th, 1847, almost a year and a half after first crossing the Mississippi River, Brigham Young entered the Salt Lake Valley, surveyed the scene, and announced, "This is the right place, drive on." Less than a month later, Brigham and several others turned and headed back to aid the saints in winter quarters. Within weeks, a constant stream of wagons was traveling both directions on the trail. After being driven from their homes, enduring unimaginable hardship, and bearing many of their own along the way, the saints had finally reached their promised land. In the months and years to come, they would see the fulfillment of the prophecies of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. The saints would build a flourishing city, a magnificent temple, never again to be driven from their homes.
How often in anguish have I said in my heart, when shall my trials and tribulations end? Amid all these hard-running trials, not once have I regretted that I set out to follow the counsel, the people of God, and to obey the voice of the Spirit.
To you, this journey may
they're not used to that in the chapel, so a little bit surprised by that. But wasn't that just marvelous? Just marvelous. Another round of applause for them. There's a number of people that have been involved in bringing this production about. I don't know all the names, but I want in particular to recognize Matt Smith and Lindsay Farrell. They've been our directors for this festival. I think Sarah E., you and Seth have got something here. So Matt, I think we need you over here, and Lindsay.
As you know, part of the youth, we want to thank Matt and Lindsay for all the hard work they did and for helping us get ready. And so, thank you.
At the conclusion of the performance, we have refreshments in the back, so when we invite you to partake, there's also some displays back there from sort of semi-authentic artifacts. There's actually some really cool stuff back there, so we invite you to go back and linger and visit and congratulate these young people on this marvelous, just amazing performance that they have given us tonight, as they've, through their words and their voices, sung praises unto our God. What a wonderful thing. We're going to close with a prayer. Sasha, Dade, I hope, are you out there? There she is. If you could come up here, I didn't see her on the way in, so if you could come up and offer our benediction and maybe a blessing on our refreshments. Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this beautiful Sabbath day. We thank Thee for those who participated in this choir, and we ask Thee to please bless the refreshments, that it'll strengthen and nourish our bodies, and please bless that we'll all have a safe drive home. And I say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.